Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Arthas in the solo lane, and also just a tiny bit of why we haven't seen him much in as a main tank these days. Arthas kind of disappeared from the meta because we had this essentially Garrosh's, Diablos, and ETCs gained a lot of popularity, and all three of those heroes have ways to take the enemy tank and throw them into their team. So Garrosh just flips them, stuns them. Diablo flips him, pushes him back, and ETC slides through, pushes him back. And all three of those things make it to where it's very difficult for Arthas to do anything, because if Arthas gets flipped, he has no escape. Let's say, for instance, the ETC gets flipped, Murden gets flipped, something like that. It's very easy for them to just hop back over, slide right through. But Arthas has no form of escape outside of the just like slowing people and trying to bully his way through. So he kind of disappeared as a main tank because he can't sit in front of like a Garrosh and keep his team safe, because he's just going to get flipped and killed. So we've stopped seeing Arthas a lot in pro games. We've stopped seeing Arthas a lot in a variety of other competitive areas. So the reason why I wanted to talk about Arthas is because I personally think Arthas is an extremely powerful hero. He does a lot of damage, he has permanent slows, he has a root that's very easy to land that roots for 1.25 seconds. He has a good amount of self-healing, and he has very powerful ultimate abilities. I think that he's an extremely powerful hero in general. It's just that the meta has caused him to go in a really awkward state. It's very similar to like the diva concept that I brought out of, I think Diva's strong, but she's in a bad spot. Well, Arthas is the same way, except for the fact that I think that Arthas can fit. I think he's just used incorrectly now. And why do I say that? Well, because Arthas actually can fit in the solo lane pretty well. In a particular build, which this is what I'm going to talk about today, is the build of Arthas in the solo lane and what you need to pick and how you need to do it. It's essentially trait plus your Q. So his regular build is Frost Presence, you toss a W out, it roots everyone in the path. And then level 4, you get like your slow linger, so you can perma-slow people even if they get out of the range. You can just get back in and slow them again. Then you've got the Icebound, so you can survive CCs and just survive extra damage. That was like his old build. I'm going to show you his new build. I'm going to show you what I really like to do as a solo lane Arthas. And it only really works. I'm not going to say you're going to beat a Yrel with it. I'm not saying you're going to beat a Phoenix with it. And you'll struggle with the Malthaels and some of the other solo laners. However, if you pick him against someone like an Artanis or someone who's frontline that does a lot of auto attacks, you could actually really bully people. You have a lot of self-healing with your Q, you have a lot of mana with your trait, and you can complete your trait quest pretty early. There's something unique about this trait quest. When it's completed, you gain extra 40 mana every time you use your trait. However, it keeps stacking indefinitely, meaning that this extra 4 damage every time you land your trait keeps going, so we're at 44 extra damage. Well, late game with the trait build, you could start doing a lot of damage with this. You'll see late game, I start critting people for like 400 damage with the trait, which is quite a lot to their backliners. Then getting the Q talons afterwards allows you to out-sustain. So the first couple ones just reduce the cooldown and increase the range, making it easier for you to snipe people, as well as you can heal yourself more often. As long as you keep healing yourself with your Q and gaining mana back with your trait, you're in a pretty good spot, gaining 70 mana and only using 50 per death coil. So it is a very powerful little combo, just using these back and forth, and allows you to stay in these lanes for a long time, burning people down. Now, there are times where you need to watch the trades. There's certain levels where you can't win, but then there are times when you can win. I was told about this a while back, and I hadn't really played it that much. There was an Arthas main that was kind of upset that he was out of the meta, and I kind of explained why. I said, like, the reasons why is because these, like, flip tanks and stuff. And he's like, that makes sense. So he's like, maybe I'll try him in the solo lane. So he started doing, this is an open division player, and he started playing Arthas in the solo lane. And he was dominating with Arthas in the solo lane. So he knows all the ins and outs of everything, but he told me, he's like, just try it out. So I've been practicing it, and this game was probably like the second game I played with him in solo lane, and it is pretty cool. So at 7, I like to get Immortal Coil to where it always heals. This way I can always do damage to the enemy and always heal, and it really helps me win trades. Normally, again, the Icebound Fortitude is really common. Rune Tap could be common against someone like a Yrel, because you're just going to sit there and keep auto-attacking her the whole time, so it could be common there. But it's just a powerful hero in the solo lane in general. On Braxis, I like to go Syndragosa. It allows you to push with your team and turn off all the structures, kind of like a mini Sylvanas. So I really like to go Syndragosa. We'll see it probably when I go 10. I also like Syndragosa in this build in general because it allows you don't need to main tank, which means you don't need to have that healing for your team. Instead, you could send a Syndragosa into their backline, jump on their backline, root them, and get bursting Frostmourne Hungers off on them. So we'll talk about that when we start getting more to those areas, but I just really like this build. It's a lot more fun. It's very engaging with Arthas, and it gets a lot of value. You see, I didn't even go back there. I just simply used my trait a couple times. And you can see the big bursts that my trait gives me with mana. I get a globe, and we're good to go. You can see, now that I'm level 7, and I have the Immortal Coil always heals, as well as the lowered cooldown and the increased range, followed by this, you're going to see how I actually trade pretty well against this Arthas now. So we start fighting, and I can always deal damage to him, get big heals off on myself, and gain my mana back while also critting him, gaining bonus damage. So like I'm at 72 extra damage, 76 extra damage every time I use my trait. So it does 141 damage plus an extra 76, plus the extra damage from the auto attack, because it does a auto attack increased by the damage. So the trait starts getting really high. You can see I'm doing 350 damage to him with a trait, and that's followed by an auto attack usually. So I usually auto attack for 135 and then immediately trait afterwards for 350. So I'm doing 500 damage in a quick burst, followed by the extra damage. And again, it's getting pretty brutal. So you can see, like, I out-trade him now completely. Every time we fight, I out-trade him, because I'm just getting healed. I'm poking, I'm getting healed, and there's not much he can do. So it's a really powerful dueling spec. It's really, really strong. So that's why I really like it. But I'll show you where, like, it's not just an early game thing. I've been talking to people about playing it against Yrel on maps that don't require you to hold a point, because Yrel is going to be giving you free stacks of your trait the entire time because she's melee. And once you hit level 7, you can out-heal her damage. But then you start getting this stacked so much that late game, you're like doing a fourth of someone's health. So it's just really, really nice. So that's really what I would recommend people try this out, especially against like Yrels, against Arthas for sure. And once I clear this up, you can see I'll be able to burn him down again. I just want to clear it up before the beacon spawn, because once the beacon spawn, I want to make sure that I'm actually on that and fighting him. We know he's not here, so he was probably ganking bot, but their whole team's missing. I might do a game where I actually show my gameplay and commentary on this so people can really see how it works, while like what I'm thinking about when I'm playing it, not just the after effect of the replay. But look at this, like it's just us just brawling here, and his attack speed is slow because of my E, so he can't get his shield off as often, and I keep healing myself from Q. It's very easy for me to get a lot of value. I can turn off the structures and dive him using Syndragosa. So I believe I use Syndragosa here, turn off the structures, and I wasn't expecting to kill him with Syndragosa. I just wanted to turn off the structures so I could dive. But that's the thing, is like he just can't get away. Like he can't fight it because I permanently slow him. His attack speed, his movement speed. I'm bursting him with the hunger and getting my mana back, and I'm out healing him with the death coil while doing extra damage. So it's really, really nice. Level 13 and 16, it really depends on what you want to go for. I personally like reducing the cooldown. I mean, it depends, but if you're going to be trading, if you reduce the cooldown, it means you get more mana, as well as you get bigger slows on people when you activate it. And so I like that. Level 16, it's up to you. I like Embrace Death because it deals more damage, it heals you more, the lower health you are. So you become very, very hard to kill. But a lot of people will recommend, in this particular build, they'll recommend going the traits, because your trait starts doing something like 500 damage, 400 to 500 damage late game. So being able to do 2 of those is like 1,000 damage to someone. So it really kills backliners. So it's up to you. I think I would say it's really situational. Just finish him off with a Q. Again, the Q does a good chunk of damage. Get a trade off on Arthas and just perma-slow him. And I don't have Syndragosa this time for this push because I used it to kill Arthas earlier. But that also gave us the objective, so it was worth it. But you see how much I chunked that Greymane? Like, I chunked him for something like 25% of his health with a Hunger, and then killed him off with a long-range Death Coil. So it's like, that's how strong this build is. It's really brutal. I'm already doing 116 extra damage, plus the other 172 you're already doing bonus damage. So I'm at about 400 damage when you include the auto attack damage too. So it's really, really nice. So we're just going to fast forward. I have Syndragosa up again. Now we're up a lot of levels, so in this case it becomes a little bit less of how cool the build is and more about so I did a Syndragosa up here. Part of the reason I want to do big slows on their backline, as well as giving me the opportunity to actually fight. So I did a Syndragosa here, and my goal here is I don't need to worry about Garrosh. Our team's pretty mobile. We can deal with that. My job is now to get in their backline and be like a Urel. You see like a Urel jump in your backline and just be really disruptive, really annoying. That's what I want to do in this role. That's the position you hold now, because you're not a main tank. You are an off tank, and you're an off tank that has some bursty capabilities. So you see, like, I get taunted, but my goal was to get in their backline. And so I just end up taking the couple people that are in front of me. Now, I mean, I'm on to the Greymane. I'm just permanently slowing this Greymane's attack speed, movement speed. Watch the trait damage here. 474. Just blew up the Greymane. We're almost at 500 damage with my trait. Now imagine at 16, if you're hitting people twice with that. That's 1,000 damage by yourself. 1,000 damage by yourself with just your trait. Your W is still going to hit for 125. Your Q is still going to hit for 300 damage. Your auto attacks are still going to be hitting for a lot. Your E is still going to be hitting for a lot. So you could really blow up their backline. Like, you can see how I just sit on people, and it's like, quick Q, kills them. Now I'm on the Maiev. She's already used her escape. Oh, I guess she hasn't used her escape. It's like, all of those things what I'm talking about. Like, how powerful this build is. You're just this bully that's very hard to deal with. You can get in their back line and be super disruptive, or you can get in the front line and help your tank peel, and you're still blowing people apart. So, I really like this Arthas build. I'd be really interested in what you guys think in the comments below of, can this Arthas build be a niche solo pick? Can it be the new way to counter certain annoying heroes? What do you think about it? Like, I'm really curious. Like, it's something that it's been run a little bit in open division lately. Just seeing an Arthas in the solo lane, and people have been running it in the solo, and it's pretty cool. I was just kind of learning from watching scrims, and I'm sorry if I'm breaking anyone's scrim strats, but at the same time, this has been something that people have been testing in open games too, so it's not like I'm just taking a scrim strat. But I just like it. I mean, the damage-wise, I don't know if you're going to be like topping damage or anything. I'm like 4th. I'm pretty close to the other damage dealers though. I'm only 1,000 off from them in hero damage. Siege damage, I'm only 3,000 below the highest, so it's not too bad. In terms of tanking, I'm tanking more than our main tank, and EXP contribution, you can see I bring a lot to the team. The kills, it's easy to finish off people because your Q does a lot, and you're going to have a low cooldown and a long range with it, so it's pretty easy to do that. But the majority of your damage comes from your E and your trait, honestly. Like, just, again, even on a Garrosh with armor, almost 400 damage. But without your ults, you can get bursted pretty easy, so that's the thing you do need to watch out for, like, without the other ults. And if you use your Q, like I used the Q on the enemy there, if I would have used it on myself, I would have been perfectly fine, because I did end up getting the talent that makes it to where it heals more. So, for instance, the lower the health you have, the better your Q would be, and I was at like 10% health, so this would have done a lot of extra healing. I mean, the self-heal on it is almost 500, so I'd probably heal myself for about 900 health there, and then we could have killed the Greymane and it would have been fine. So if I didn't use the Q on the Greymane, I would have been fine there. Things that you learn mechanically by playing the heroes, and you adapt to it. But yeah, I think it's just a cool build, and the Syndragosa isn't required. You can go the other one if you still want to be a bully, because the ghouls do add extra damage, because all you are is a bruiser. Like, you fill the same role as like a Blaze, right? Blaze has more wave clear, Blaze has bunker, and Blaze has a bigger stun. But you have root, you have longer range and you have more slows. So there's pros and cons to both, and I personally think you have better single target damage. But we'll see. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit so we can get to the end of this game. But yeah, I think this is it right here. So I go with the Syndragosa, and again, like when I use a Syndragosa on Arthas, my goal is to not just set up for the team, but to also make it to where I can get into their backline and start bursting people. So you can see I send the Syndragosa out, and I'm sending it this way because most likely they won't run this way to escape because they're going to get knocked back by this Warden. So they're going to have to run this way to escape, so the Syndragosa is going to hit all of them. Now that Syndragosa's hit all of them, you can see how I focus on this. I see that I might need to peel for the Greymane off, but instead I just go for the extra damage. I do a big root. Doesn't hit anyone though. I just heal myself. That's what I'm talking about though. 1,000 health heal just for being below 50% health. It's huge. And I have the lower cooldown on that. It's nuts. So again, like we get Greymane low, and this is just from the minions here, a couple shots from Junkrat, and then my E. That's all it is. And then Junkrat blows him up. We finish him up. Oh, just like the damage is unreal. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the build. It's just a really bullying build. Like it's not gonna top the damage charts or anything, but it surely will bully people quite a lot. It does a good chunk of damage for being like as tanky as he is. It's a lot of damage. But yeah, so I highly recommend people test it out. Let me know in the comments below what you think about solo lane Arthas. Do you think this is going to be something we start seeing a lot more? Do you think it's just something that's niche that we might only see here and there? Have you tried this before? Is this a build that you've ever done in the solo lane, or is this something that you haven't seen that much? I mean, I'm really curious to see what people say. I know the people that I've showed this to are usually pretty like they're pretty open to it, because most people haven't tried this build in the solo lane. They usually will like do this build as the like as a tank. But I just feel like you don't get many opportunities to just sit there and stack your trait forever if you're not in the solo lane. But yeah, I'd be curious to see. How do you think this does against Urel? Like I've played it against Urel. So a little bit of a spoiler is you won't win on like a Braxis because she'll still be able to knock you out of the point and out sustain you. But you get so many free stacks that when you reach late game, you're doing like 750 damage with your trait. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just really curious to see what you guys think. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it, and see y'all next time.